Welcome, my viewers and listeners. We have a long gap of communication among us. There are some reasons for that. Some were personal reasons, and the other reasons were that, frankly speaking, that I do not expect anything from these videos for the purpose of earning something, but still I have some interest just to give something to you presently at the free of cost, so that my dear listeners and viewers, they may be little bit benefited for the purpose of learning the accounting principles, basic principles. Actually, the videos which I have made, those are only based on the basic principles of accounting, and for the listeners who are studying the accountancy at the primary stage. Today our topics is the dual aspect of the accounting. The principle of dual aspect says that every transaction has two aspects. One is the debit aspect and another is the credit aspect. This principle of dual aspect also says that the total amount of the debit side must be equal to the total amount of the credit side, which we have already came to know from our journal entries when we studied our journal entries from different types of the transactions at the different time. Our object is not to learn the dual aspect of accounting, but to know the accounting equation, which is actually came from the concept of this dual aspect of accountancy. We know that as per the basic accounting principle, total debit amount must be equals to the total credit amount of a transaction. There may be compound journal, means there may be more than one debit accounts, and similarly there may be more than one credit accounts also. But whatever the number of the debits or the credits of a transaction, the total amount shown in the debit side must be equal to the credit side. With the help of this principle, or with the help of this basic concept, we can approach or go forward to understand the accounting equation. I know to use the board, either the whiteboard or the blackboard, whatever it may be, it would become advantageous for us to learn. But as the space of the board may not be sufficient to show the all details, to show the entries as well as their solutions, I am using my verbal communication to you, and I know that all of you will appreciate and try to understand. If any of you do not understand, I am requesting or appealing to them to see the videos once or twice, so that the comprehension or understanding will be clear to them. Let us come back to our discussion. I told you that every transaction has two aspects. One is the debit and another is the credit. And the total amount of the debit side must tally with the total amount of the credit side in the prevailing currency of a country or the journal or the transaction. On the basis of this principle, another principle has been prevailed, which is the total assets equals to total liabilities and capital. Total assets equals to total liabilities of the and capital. This principle has been prevailed. To understand and to show by way of the accounting equation of a transaction, we must have some preliminary concepts or preliminary knowledge which one can say or you can say is the pillar for the purpose of the preparations of the accounting equation from a given journal. First one is the accounting rule or double entry accounting rule as per American principle, and another is the traditional rule or the British rule for determining the debit and credit of a transaction. In my previous videos, I have already discussed how to determine the debit and credit as per the American rule, and in this session or in this time I shall give a brief idea how to determine the debit or the credit as per the traditional rule or the British rule, and only that portion will be mentioned which is relevant for the purpose of the preparations of the accounting equation from a given transaction. Let us come back to our discussion. We shall discuss how to prepare the accounting equation from a given transaction. At first, we shall prepare three vertical columns. In the left hand side, the liabilities and capital column. In the middle, the transaction column, that is the transaction from which we have to prepare the accounting equation we shall write here. And in the extreme side, we shall write the asset column. Sometimes it is seen that the asset column is also subdivided by the learner of the accountancy or the bookkeeping at the time of preparations of the accounting equation. The asset side is broken up by sundry debtors, cash and bank, stock, etc. And similarly, in the liability side is also broken by bank overdraft, sundry creditors, and capital. Actually, the preliminary learners, they used to do it to break the current assets according to its accounting heads, and similarly the capital and the current liabilities according to the respective heads. But I think it is not necessary, because the basic equation is liabilities plus capital equals to asset, and we can show by doing this only three columns. The first column is the liabilities and the capital. In the middle, we shall write the given transaction, and on the right side, if we write the asset side, it will be sufficient. Now we shall discuss how to prepare the accounting equation by taking a few examples. First, take bought a machinery from X Limited for rupees 5,000 on credit. From the transaction, we can understand that the transaction is a credit transaction, and naturally its journal entry will be machinery account debit to X Limited rupees 5,000. From the journal, we can see that as per the accounting rule, the assets are increasing as because the machinery has been bought, and a liability has been created to X Limited due to buying the machinery on credit. So the journal itself is saying us what to do if we have a little bit knowledge on the journal and the American principles of the accounting. So when the assets is increasing, by writing in the middle portion the transactions, bought a machinery for rupees 5,000 from X Limited on credit, we shall increase the asset side by plus 5,000, and similarly on the liability side we shall also increase rupees 5,000. So the accounting equation has been tallied, as because you know that all assets are debit, and all liabilities and capital are credit. This must be remembered. All assets are debit, all liabilities and capital, they are credit mostly. Capital account may be debited. There are some exceptions which are discussed on the latter cases. Now take the same transaction. but it is a cash transaction. Bought a machinery for rupees X limited and made the payment by bank transfer. We can see that the journal is coming to be machinery account debit to bank account instead of to X limited in as per our previous transaction. Here we can see that both the accounting heads in the journal are connected with the asset side. One is with the machinery, that is the fixed assets, it is connected, assets is increasing. And another is with the current assets, cash at bank account, which is decreasing. So naturally, what shall we do? On the asset side, after writing the transaction in the middle, asset side will be plus for the machinery, rupees 5,000. And at the same time, asset side will be minus by rupees 5,000 for the payment made by bank transfer. So let us take another example. For example, sold goods for rupees 5,000, the cost of which was rupees 4,000 at a profit of rupees 1,000. Try to understand the transaction again clearly. Sold goods or sold machinery, whatever you may wish, sold goods for rupees 5,000 at a profit of rupees 1,000, the cost of which was rupees 4,000. Naturally, we can see that here the goods which are being delivered, its cost price was rupees 4,000. Actual receipt was rupees 5,000 and the profit we have obtained is rupees 1,000. Now what will be the treatment of it? Total 5,000 we have received. It is the total revenue we have earned. So naturally, the cash at bank will be increased by rupees 5,000. So on the asset side, we shall increase or add rupees 5,000 the actual receipt. Now goods worth rupees 4,000 has been already delivered to our buyer. So naturally, this 4,000 will be deducted after adding rupees 5,000 from the same asset side. The difference, that is plus 5,000 minus 4,000 equal to rupees 1,000, which is the profit. This 1,000 will be added on the left hand side with the capital. We know that when profit is earned, capital is increased, and when loss is incurred or loss is sustained by a business, naturally the capital is decreased. This is an example of the profit. Now let us take another example of a loss by the same way. For example, sold goods for rupees 5,000 and sustained a loss rupees 1,000. So naturally, the goods which we have sold at rupees 5,000 and we have sustained a loss rupees 1,000, what was the cost price? Naturally, the cost price will be the rupees 6,000, that is the actual receipt plus loss. So this 6,000 contains actually two aspects. One is the actual receipt, rupees 5,000, and another is the cost price, rupees 6,000. In the similar fashion, the actual revenue or the receipt, rupees 5,000, will be added with the cash at bank, as because to that extent of rupees 5,000 our cash at bank is increasing. And similarly, the current assets, stock, that is decreasing by its cost price, that is rupees 6,000. That is why this 6,000 will also be deducted from the asset sides after adding rupees 5,000. Then we can see there is a difference of rupees 1,000 minus, that is the loss. Actual receipt is rupees 5,000, actual revenue earned, and the cost of the goods which had been delivered was worth of rupees 6,000. This loss of rupees 1,000, that is the difference between 5,000 and the 6,000, this 1,000 loss will be in the similar fashion deducted from the capital. So this has gone the accounting equation which are relevant with the real accounts and personal accounts as per our traditional accounting principle or double entry principle by the British system or double entry system. Now I am coming to some another aspects of our example where the primary learners, they are being sometimes confused, I have seen. In this respect, I want to say, many of you, my viewers or the listeners, they may think, who am I? What is my qualification? What is my profession? I shall not discuss, this is not the proper time and the stage. Who am I? What is my qualification? What is my experience? But in a simple manner, in a brief, I can say that you have seen, suppose, what is my age? I have more than 30 years of experience only in the teaching and in my professional careers. You can say the auditing. I need not require to explain more. Now let us come back. Suppose printing a stationery has been paid by rupees 500 by bank payment. So naturally, our journal entry will be printing and stationery account debit to bank account by rupees 500 or 5,000, whatever it may be, you can say. So printing and stationery, I told you just the starting of our discussion that we must have some preliminary knowledge regarding both the double entry system or doing or making debit and credit as per accounting rule, or determining debit and credit as per our traditional or British rule. Here that point is coming. Printing and stationery account, all this is the nominal account. Most of the revenue accounts, they are the mostly connected with the nominal accounts. So when the questions of the nominal account will arise, how can we make the accounting equation? It is understood that printing and stationery account debit to bank account rupees 500 say, this 500 will be deducted from the asset side. We understood it because the bank balance will be reduced to the extent of the rupees 500, that is the amount of the transaction. What shall we do with the another side? Shall we deduct the same amount from the asset side? Or shall we deduct the same amount from the liability side? And why? The bank side has been already reduced, or the asset side has been already reduced by rupees 500 for the purpose of the payment of the printing and stationery. Another treatment, that is one debit side has been reduced, asset side has been reduced. So this 500, as it is being the nominal account, it should be adjusted always with the capital account. Remember these things. We must remember this aspect. So the ultimate solutions of this transaction by way of the accounting equation is that on the asset sides we shall reduce rupees 500, or if we make the extra column or break the assets by sundry debtors, by stock, by cash in hand, by cash at bank, etc., etc., then we can deduct the same amount from the cash at bank. And this rupees 5,000 for the payment of the printing and stationery, if we make the extra column in the liability and capital side, namely capital account, sundry creditors, bank overdraft, bills payable, etc., etc., or if we keep only one column, liabilities and capital, we shall deduct it from the capital portion or from the total amount of the capital and liability portion. So from this discussion we understand that when the journal will be affected by any nominal account, salaries, printing stationery, electricity, whatever it may be, one treatment will be always with the asset side, either increase or decrease, and another treatment will be always with the capital side. Take another short example because the video is getting to be longer. Received interest for rupees 500. So naturally bank account debit to interest. So bank account will be increased by rupees 500 the amount by the amount of the interest. And in the similar fashion, interest account being the nominal account, it will be added with the capital account. Thus, I am requesting to the learners, to my viewers and to the listeners to practice some transactions, and if they have any problem during their study or they encounter any problem during my discussions or they could not able to follow me, I am requesting to them to make the comment. I am waiting for their comments, though no comments has been come yet, and I am ready to give my appropriate answer so far my knowledge is concerned for the satisfactions of my listeners and viewers. And again, thanks to my all viewers and listeners. I shall try to come with a new video within a very short time for the purpose of making the communications and connection with you. Till then, thank you and stay well and safe.